Hello everyone, today I'm going to talk about how to read your own horoscope and the basics of astrology. In order to read your birth chart, you need three important details. One is your date of birth, the second one is your time of birth, and the third one is your place of birth. Even if your place of birth is not very accurate, it's quite okay. You could always choose the nearest location to your homeland, but time of birth and the date of birth should be as accurate as possible. If you miss this detail even by a few minutes, there could be drastic changes. Okay, so there's quite a lot of websites out there which will draw the horoscope for you. However, for the sake of ease and access, I'm providing a link in my description for you to generate your horoscope based on these details. Okay, once you get your horoscope drawn, it's going to look something like this. And here SU stands for Sun, SA stands for Saturn, V stands for Venus, JU for Jupiter, MO for Moon, RA for Rahu, MA for Mars, KE for Ketu, ME for Mercury. Okay, so there are 9 planets in Vedic astrology. We'll go into details in a bit later, but as for now, all you gotta remember is there are 9 planets in total. Okay, there are different ways of drawing these charts. One is the square shaped chart, which look like boxes. The other one is the diamond shaped chart. Both are extensively used. I personally prefer the box shaped chart, and once you've settled with your style of chart, you should be ideally looking for the words ASC or ascendant. Okay, so in most cases this is abbreviated as ASC, but in certain softwares you can find them abbreviated as AS, and AS stands for ascendant, also known as the lagna in Vedic astrology. The ascendant marks the beginning of every horoscope. Now we'll look at the signs in astrology. Okay, there are totally 12 signs in astrology, starting with Aries, then Taurus, Gemini, and all the way up to Pisces. Okay, we move in this clockwise direction. All the planets move in the clockwise direction except for 2 planets which move in the anti-clockwise directions, which are Rahu and Ketu. We'll talk about movements at a later date. As of now, these are the planets that were in motion during your birth and they're fixed for your life. We'll talk about predictions through transit of these planets in another video. These signs are further categorized into elements in nature, okay, such as fire, earth, air, and water. I've highlighted the signs based on their elements, and I've given the details below. The zodiac wheel or the chakra, which is 360 degrees, is divided into 12 houses. Okay, and signs which are each comprising of 30 degrees. So 30 degrees is allotted to each sign in the zodiac, and the degrees also have a very important role to play in astrology. So for example, if a planet is at 0 degrees, it basically means that the planet is very weak, whereas if it's at 24 or 25, it means that it's a very mature planet. But these things vary depending on context. You don't have to be a mathematician or feel daunted that you'll be required to calculate these aspects, because the software available today can do that for you for free. Now we'll see what this ascendant is all about, because we were talking about the ascendant, which marks the beginning of the chart, right? So we'll see what that actually means. So in astrology, the 12 boxes also represent the 12 houses. However, this is not completely true. That's the way to understand it for now, for the sake of simplicity. So you will look at each box as a house, and the beginning of the first house is based on where your ascendant is placed in our sample horoscope. We can see that the ascendant is placed in the sign of Capricorn. So this is a Capricorn ascendant, and the first house starts here. In case the ascendant were to be placed here, the first house would be a Aquarius ascendant, and the first house would start here. Okay, irrespective of which sign the ascendant is placed in, the sign marks the first house in astrology. Now, what is this ascendant and why is it so important? Ascendant not only marks the uh, first house in astrology, it also represents the self of the person whose horoscope we are actually reading, right? Depending on the sign it is placed in. The first house will tell you about your body, your physical appearance, and also your general temperament. Okay, so why general temperament? Because the body also consists of your brain, which consists of hardwired characteristics that is specific to you, which cannot always be so easily changed as the mind can be. You can think of the mind as the software and the brain as the hardware. Though we have different planets to talk about oneself at a mental level, to see the physical health, we'll need to look at the ascendant. From the ascendant, we look at the planets which represent different things. From the standpoint of the ascendant, the sun represents the soul or the ego, moon would represent mind, Mars represents willpower and the energy that a person has, and Mercury represents speech and intellect. Jupiter would represent happiness and wisdom. Venus represents desire, Saturn represents discipline, and it also represents grief and what makes you sad. And Rahu represents obsession, Ketu represents detachment. Okay, so now from the standpoint of the ascendant, in the context of relationships, Sun represents the father, Moon the mother, Mars represents your brother or your friend, Mercury represents your sister, Jupiter represents guru or teacher, Venus represents wife or woman, Saturn represents elders, it also represents your servants, Rahu represents your maternal grandfather, Ketu represents paternal grandfather. So based on different contexts, the planets have a different meaning and they represent different things. Sort of like English grammar, you get different meanings based on the context in which you look at them. Okay. Additionally, planets move in the zodiac through stellar mansions, what we call as nakshatras. The set zodiac comprises of 27 asterism commencing from Ashwini going all the way up to Revati. Okay, so among these 12 signs we have planets moving around these signs and also touching upon the nakshatras. However, we'll discuss about nakshatras at a later date, but this is a part of the basics of astrology, so I've put it up here. And you should be ideally familiarizing yourself with the signs, the houses in astrology, and also the number of planets, and that should do for you to know the basics, the very basics of astrology. So also don't forget to find out where your ascendant is, because that is so crucial. That is such an important detail in Vedic astrology, and based on which much of the predictions are made. Okay, and I'll see you again with another video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it with your friends.